The wine hadn't even arrived yet when Nathaniel Brooks cleared his throat and fired me. Right there. In front of everyone. Crystal glasses, candlelight, the biggest client our firm had chased for 6 months sitting across from us, and my boss decided that was the perfect moment. "Extella," he said smoothly, like he was announcing dessert, "we've decided to terminate your role effective immediately." The restaurant went quiet around our table. I felt every eye on me. Coworkers pretending not to stare, the client confused, waiters frozen mid-step. I didn't cry, didn't argue, just sat there, hands folded, heart slamming against my ribs. "My name is Extella Carter," I finally said calmly, "and I think this conversation deserves context." Nathaniel gave that tight smile he used when controlling a room. Context won't change the decision. But I noticed something he didn't. The client, Mr. Alden Hayes, wasn't looking at me. He was staring directly at Nathaniel, and he looked concerned. That was when I knew something bigger was happening, and I wasn't the only one being blindsided. Nathaniel kept talking like I wasn't there anymore. Severance, transition, corporate language that turns people into paperwork. I nodded politely, but my focus stayed on Alden Hayes. He hadn't touched his drink, hadn't smiled once. Finally, he interrupted. "Why fire the person who built this entire proposal?" Nathaniel chuckled. "Team effort." It wasn't. Everyone knew that. 6 months of late nights, strategy decks, negotiations, client calls, crisis management, all me. But I stayed quiet, because something about Nathaniel's confidence felt forced, like he needed me silent. Alden leaned back slowly. "That's interesting," he said. Pause. Heavy pause. Then, "Because she's the only reason I agreed to this dinner." Silence. My coworkers shifted uncomfortably. Nathaniel's smile faltered. Just a fraction. And suddenly, this wasn't just a firing. This was a mistake he might not recover from. Nathaniel recovered fast. Too fast. "We appreciate your loyalty," he told Alden smoothly. But Extella's performance issues made this unavoidable. Performance issues. That was new. No warnings, no write-ups, no conversations, just public termination. Alden's eyes moved to me. Not pity. Assessment? "What performance issues?" he asked. Nathaniel waved casually. "Internal matters." That was when I spoke again. Calm. Controlled. "Actually," I said, "my last review rated me top performer." I watched Nathaniel's jaw tighten. Subtle. But there. "I have the documentation," I added. "I wasn't bluffing, I kept everything. Always had." Nathaniel laughed lightly. "No need to make this messy, Extella." Messy. Interesting choice of word. Because messy was exactly what he seemed desperate to avoid. And I was starting to understand why. I didn't argue further at the table. Not yet. Instead, I smiled politely, thanked everyone for the opportunity, and stood up. Professional dignity. Always. As I gathered my purse, Alden spoke quietly. "Extella, wait." Nathaniel's eyes flashed, control slipping. Just slightly. Alden turned fully toward him. "I'd like a word with her privately." Nathaniel hesitated, then forced another corporate smile. "Of course." But his hand tightened around his glass. I stepped away from the table with Alden. My heart pounded, but my face stayed neutral. Years in corporate politics taught me one rule: emotion loses leverage, calm wins. Outside the restaurant, Alden spoke first. "This wasn't about performance," he said. Statement, not question. "No," I answered. He nodded slowly. "I suspected as much." Then he said something I didn't expect. "Because someone warned me this might happen tonight." And suddenly, this firing looked less spontaneous, more like a setup. "My name is Extella Carter," I told him again, properly this time. "Senior strategy lead. Or, former, apparently." He smiled slightly. "I know exactly who you are." That caught me off guard. He continued, "You're the one who flagged the risk in phase 3 of the proposal. Saved us millions." I had done that quietly. No credit, no announcement. Nathaniel had presented it as his idea later. Typical. "Why fire you publicly?" Alden asked. "Control," I said honestly. "And credit," I added after a pause. Alden didn't look surprised. He looked thoughtful. "Someone in your company contacted me yesterday," he said. Anonymous. Warning me. Said, internal politics might affect tonight. Internal politics. Corporate code for power struggle. Which meant someone knew this was coming, someone didn't agree, and someone wanted me protected, but I didn't know who, yet. Back inside, dinner had resumed awkwardly. Nathaniel avoided eye contact, coworkers avoided conversation, classic damage control mode. I sat quietly, observing patterns, body language, whispers. Corporate betrayal rarely happens in isolation. There are always signals, always alliances. I remembered small things, meetings I wasn't invited to lately, Nathaniel presenting my work solo, budget approvals suddenly delayed. It formed a picture now. He wasn't reacting. He'd been preparing. And tonight's public firing? Strategic humiliation, a warning to others. Stay loyal, stay quiet, or get removed. Alden cleared his throat. I've made a decision, he said. Everyone looked up. Nathaniel straightened, confidence returning, probably expecting confirmation of the contract. Instead, Alden said, I won't be moving forward with your firm. Silence dropped like a weight. Nathaniel went pale. Because this wasn't just a lost deal, this was a reputation hit. Major one. Nathaniel tried to recover. Perhaps we should discuss. Alden raised a hand. No. Firm. Final. Then he looked directly at me. Extella, would you consider consulting independently? My breath caught. Not excitement. Shock. Consulting meant freedom, control, opportunity, but also risk. And I wasn't naive. Offers like that don't happen by accident. Nathaniel's chair scraped loudly. That would be inappropriate. Alden didn't even look at him. I disagree. Then calmly, I prefer working with people I trust. That sentence landed hard, because trust was exactly what tonight exposed, or lack of it. Nathaniel's authority was dissolving. Right there. Publicly. Exactly how he'd tried to humiliate me. Except now, the roles were reversing. Dinner ended quickly after that. Awkward handshakes, forced smiles, corporate politeness masking panic. Nathaniel stopped me near the exit. Voice low, controlled anger. You don't have to pursue this. I tilted my head. This? Consulting. Competition. Conversations. Ah, there it was. Fear. Because independent consulting meant I controlled my client relationships, my strategy, my narrative, and potentially his secrets. I haven't decided anything, I said calmly. Which was true, but his reaction told me something critical. This wasn't just about a firing. It was about information, control, and possibly something he didn't want exposed. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, Alden handed me his card. No pressure, he said, just consider it. I took it, and for the first time all evening, I felt something shift. Not revenge, not yet. Power. And something told me, this story was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from unknown. Then an email from HR with the subject line, official termination notice, immediate. No thank you, no explanation, just a PDF and a cold sentence about conduct unbecoming. Conduct. That word hit like a slap, because I hadn't done anything, unless surviving their setup counted as misconduct. I opened the attachment. The reason section was vague on purpose, like fog you could shape into any story. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown. I answered. A man's voice, quiet and careful. Miss Carter, don't speak to HR yet. Don't sign anything. My pulse jumped. Who is this? A pause. Someone who's seen what Nathaniel does to people who know too much. Before I could speak, the call ended. I stood in my kitchen staring at my phone. The firing wasn't over. They were trying to control the story after the dinner, and someone inside the company was trying to warn me. Which meant one thing. There was more behind this than humiliation. There was a cover-up. I drove to my office anyway, not to beg. Not to plead, to collect my things and observe. The lobby looked normal, but the energy felt wrong. Too quiet, too polite. The receptionist didn't meet my eyes. Security was already waiting. That told me everything. Nathaniel had planned this. The guard walked me upstairs like I was dangerous. At my desk, half my drawers were already emptied. Someone had been through my space. My laptop was gone. My work notebook, the one where I kept timelines and action items, gone too. That wasn't HR procedure. That was panic. I kept my face calm and packed slowly. Then I saw it. A folder in my bottom drawer that someone missed. Inside were printed drafts of the Alden Hayes proposal. And tucked behind them, a copy of a signed internal form. Not mine. Nathaniel's. It was an authorization for consultant expenses. With a name I didn't recognize. And a number that made my stomach tighten. $48,000. My hand stayed steady. But inside something turned cold, because I knew what this looked like. Money moved quietly. Off the books. I left without a scene. That was important. People like Nathaniel feed off chaos, so I gave him none. In my car, I took photos of everything in the folder, every signature, every date. Then I called Alden Hayes, not emotional, not dramatic, just direct. He answered on the second ring. Extella. I found something, I said. Alden went silent for a second. Tell me. There were consultant payments linked to the proposal, I explained. Large ones, not disclosed. His voice sharpened. That would violate our vendor standards. I know. A pause. Then he said, meet me today. Not at your firm, somewhere neutral. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Why are you helping me? I asked finally. Alden's answer came calm and heavy. Because my company has been burned before. And last night, I recognized a con. My throat went tight. He wasn't just offering me work, he was offering me protection. And maybe leverage. We met in a quiet hotel lounge in Midtown. Safe, neutral, public enough to deter drama. Alden arrived with a leather folder and a face that didn't waste time. He slid something across the table. A printed email, from someone inside my firm, sent to Alden's company compliance team. It warned that the proposal had been altered internally, and that a senior executive was placing blame on a subordinate. My stomach clenched. They knew he'd fire me, I whispered. Alden nodded. And they knew he'd try to pin something on you. I exhaled slowly, keeping my voice steady. So I was the scapegoat. Yes, Alden said simply. Then he leaned forward. Extella, I need you to be honest. I am. He lowered his voice. Do you have proof you didn't authorize the changes? I thought of my missing laptop, my missing notebook. Then I thought of something else. My personal backup drive. I always kept one. Because I never trusted corporate systems to protect me. Yes, I said. I have proof. And Alden's eyes hardened like steel. Then we can stop him. That afternoon, I dug into my backups. Not hacking, not anything illegal, just my own archived work. I found the version history, the original file. Then I found the altered one, and the difference was clear. Numbers shifted, timelines adjusted, certain safety warnings removed, the kind of edits that make a proposal look stronger on paper, but riskier in reality. Then I saw the signature line. Someone had added my initials digitally. As approval. I stared at it, heart thudding. That was forgery. A trap. If the deal collapsed later, they could blame me. And Nathaniel firing me publicly would make it believable. She's unstable. She acted out. She made mistakes. It was all starting to click. My hands shook, but my mind stayed sharp. I created a clean folder. Time-stamped every file. Printed the key pages. Then I did something that felt like stepping off a cliff. I emailed HR. One sentence. I will not sign any termination documents until I speak with counsel. And immediately after that, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't unknown. It was Nathaniel. His voice was soft, friendly, too friendly. Extella, he said. I hate how last night went. I didn't respond. He kept talking. You've always been talented, emotional, sometimes, but talented. There it was, the subtle insult wrapped in praise. Then his tone shifted. Listen, we can make this easy. Easy for who? I asked. A pause. For everyone. He offered a settlement. A quiet payout. He said it like generosity, but I heard it as a leash. One condition, he added, like it was normal. You sign the document stating you accept full responsibility for the proposal errors. My stomach turned. There it was, the confession, the scapegoat script. I kept my voice calm. No. Silence. Then Nathaniel's voice dropped, colder. You don't understand what you're stepping into. I smiled slightly, even though he couldn't see it. Oh, I said quietly. I do. Then I hung up. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid, because fear was what he expected, and I was done being predictable. That night, my apartment building's doorman stopped me. Miss Carter, someone came by earlier asking for you. My skin tightened. Who? He hesitated. A man in a suit said he was from your company. He wanted to deliver paperwork. Paperwork. Sure. I thanked him and went upstairs, checking my hallway before stepping out of the elevator. Nothing. But when I unlocked my door, something felt off. Not messy, not broken, just moved. I walked in slowly. My laptop bag was exactly where I left it, but the zipper was slightly open. I hadn't left it open. I didn't touch anything else. I went straight to my bedroom and opened my closet. My backup drive was still taped behind the shelf. Safe. My knees almost went weak, so they'd come for evidence, not to talk, not to negotiate, to erase me. I sat on my bed, breathing slowly, and realized something terrifying and clarifying. Nathaniel wasn't just protecting his career, he was protecting something criminal. And I was standing too close to it. The next morning, Alden called. We're moving, he said immediately. Fast. What happened? My compliance team escalated the concern, he replied. They found irregular consultant invoices tied to your firm. I closed my eyes. So it wasn't just me. No, Alden said. It's bigger. Then he added, "And your firm just sent my company a new letter." My stomach dropped. "What letter?" Alden's voice hardened. "They're claiming you acted alone. They're claiming you manipulated the proposal and attempted to influence me at dinner." My hands went cold. That was defamation. That was war. They weren't trying to silence me now. They were trying to destroy me first. Alden exhaled sharply. "I'm going to be clear," he said. "I don't believe them." Then after a pause, "But Nathaniel is scared, and scared men don't stop." The line went quiet. Then Alden said the sentence that changed everything. "Extella, they just triggered a formal investigation." My breath caught. Because investigations mean records, emails, receipts, and if Nathaniel had been moving money, he was about to get exposed, and he knew it. Which meant the next move wouldn't be polite, it would be desperate. By noon, my name was already moving through my industry like smoke. Not because I posted anything, because Nathaniel did. A former coworker texted me one sentence: "He's telling people you tried to blackmail the client." My stomach clenched, but I didn't spiral. Smear campaigns only work when you panic. I called Alden back and kept my voice flat. "Send me the letter they sent your team." He did. And there it was. Clean, corporate, deadly. They framed me as unstable, emotional, inappropriate at a professional dinner. They claimed I had altered documents. They claimed I had attempted to influence Alden. It wasn't just a lie. It was a story built to sound believable. I opened my folder and matched each claim to proof. Every timestamp, every version history, every email thread. Then I created a single timeline document. What happened? When? Who touched what? No adjectives, no rage, just facts, because facts don't sweat. Then I forwarded the timeline to Alden's compliance lead, through Alden, and I added one sentence at the end: "If this escalates, I will cooperate fully with any investigation." My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. This time the message was short: "He's deleting files." I didn't go back to the office. I didn't confront Nathaniel. I went to someone who couldn't be charmed. I walked into a small law office recommended by a former mentor, someone who handled employment disputes and corporate retaliation. I didn't ask for revenge. I asked for protection. My lawyer looked through my evidence and didn't blink. "This is coordinated," she said. "Termination at a client dinner is theater. The follow-up letter is an alibi." I swallowed. "Can they actually make people believe it?" "They can," she said. "Unless we move first." We filed a formal response to HR. Wrongful termination concerns, document tampering concerns, and a request that all relevant records be preserved immediately. A preservation notice isn't loud, but it changes the air in the room, because once you send it, deleting files becomes intentional. And intentional becomes dangerous. When I left the office, Alden called again. "Compliance wants a direct conversation with you," he said. "Today?" "Yes." My chest tightened. "Are they treating me like a suspect?" I asked. Alden paused. "They're treating you like a witness." Then he said quietly, "Extella, Nathaniel just requested a private call with me." My breath caught, because that meant he wasn't trying to end this. He was trying to control it. Alden put the call on speaker and told me to listen. Nathaniel's voice slid into the room like expensive cologne. "Alden," he said warmly, "I'm sorry you were put in the middle of personal drama." "Personal?" He tried to shrink it on purpose. Alden's voice stayed calm. "It wasn't personal at dinner, it was public." Nathaniel chuckled like that was cute. "I'm handling it," he said. "Extella's emotional. She misunderstood internal corrections." Internal corrections. Another lie, polished and gentle. Alden didn't argue. He asked one question. "Why did you fire her in front of me?" Silence. Just a beat. Then Nathaniel laughed again, tighter. "It wasn't planned," he claimed. "It was necessary." Alden said, "Necessary for what?" Nathaniel's voice lowered. "For the integrity of the proposal." My hands curled into fists. He was sticking to the scapegoat script. Then Alden did something I didn't expect. He said, "My compliance team flagged consultant invoices tied to your proposal. $48,000. Explain that." Nathaniel inhaled sharply. Alden's voice stayed soft, deadly. "You have 10 seconds before I escalate." Nathaniel didn't answer. Instead, he said my name like a threat. "Extella wants attention." Alden replied, "No, Extella wants the truth." And the call ended. That evening, the investigation became real. Alden's company sent an official notice to my firm requesting full documentation, proposal drafts, invoice trails, consultant contracts, internal approvals. Not a threat, a requirement. My former coworker texted again. IT just locked down shared drives. Nathaniel's screaming. I sat at my kitchen table with my evidence spread out like a map. I felt something strange. Not fear. Not even anger. Relief. Because the moment a machine like compliance wakes up, it doesn't fall asleep easily. Then my door buzzer rang. I froze. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. Nathaniel? No suit jacket this time. No confident smile. He looked urgent. I didn't open the door. He spoke through the wood like we were still colleagues. Extella, please, I just want to talk. I said nothing. He tried again, softer. I can fix your career. I can reverse your termination. That offer wasn't kindness. It was bait. I finally spoke, calm and clear. Put it in writing. He paused. Then, in a voice that cracked just slightly, he said, You don't understand what you're doing. I answered, still calm. I do. I'm telling the truth. Silence. Then he whispered the part he didn't mean to say out loud. If I go down, you go down too. My stomach turned cold. Because that wasn't warning, that was confession. The next morning, I met Alden's compliance team on a video call. 3 people. Neutral tones. Serious eyes. They didn't ask me how I felt. They asked what I knew. That was the difference between gossip and consequences. I walked them through the timeline, the original draft, the altered draft, the forged approval, the missing laptop, the empty desk, the $48,000 consultant authorization signed by Nathaniel. I kept my voice steady and short. I didn't add drama. I let the facts create it. One of them asked, Do you have any reason to believe these edits were made to mislead our company? I didn't guess. I said the truth. The edits increased risk and removed warnings. They made the proposal look stronger than it was. A pause. Then another asked, Do you believe you were fired to prevent disclosure? My throat tightened. Yes, I said. Because the dinner wasn't about performance. It was about silencing me in front of a witness. After the call, Alden texted me. They believe you. I stared at those words longer than I should have. Then my lawyer emailed me something that made my heart jump. HR responded. They want a meeting. Meetings are where they try to trap you, unless you walk in prepared. And this time, I wasn't walking in alone. The HR meeting happened in a conference room that smelled like lemon cleaner and control. Nathaniel wasn't there, but his fingerprints were. HR slid a paper toward me, a mutual separation agreement. It offered a payout, a neutral reference, and one condition buried in polite language. I had to agree there was no wrongdoing by the company. My lawyer didn't touch the paper. She looked at HR and asked one question. Have you issued a litigation hold? HR blinked. A what? My lawyer's voice stayed calm. A preservation order. Because you received a compliance request from Alden Hayes' company. A long silence. HR's face shifted. They knew. They were just hoping I didn't. Then my lawyer placed my timeline on the table, neatly clipped. We will not sign anything, she said, until the company explains why Miss Carter was terminated publicly, why her equipment was removed before she could retrieve it, and why internal authorizations show undocumented consultant payments. HR's hands tightened on the folder. Finally, HR whispered, This is beyond our department. My lawyer nodded. Correct. Then she leaned forward slightly. If Nathaniel tries to blame Extella again, we will escalate. I watched HR swallow. Then HR asked quietly, What do you want? I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I said, My name cleared, and my work back. And for the first time, the room didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a turning point. The fallout hit like dominoes, quiet at first, then loud. Nathaniel was placed on administrative leave, pending review. The email went out company-wide with vague wording, but vague doesn't hide reality. People started calling me. Not to gossip, to apologize. One coworker said, I'm sorry I didn't speak up at dinner. Another said, we all knew he was dangerous, we just thought he'd never do it in public. The biggest shift came that afternoon. Alden called me and said, My company is suspending all dealings with your firm until the investigation closes. Then he added, and I requested you specifically as our direct contact going forward, if you're willing. My throat tightened. Why? I asked. Alden's voice stayed steady. Because you did what most people don't. You stayed calm when someone tried to break you. I stared out my window at the city, feeling the weight lift in inches, not all at once. Then another email arrived from HR. Subject line, termination rescinded, pending reinstatement discussion. I exhaled slowly, but the story wasn't done. Because getting your job back is one thing, getting your dignity back? That's the real victory. And Nathaniel still hadn't faced me directly, which meant he still thought there was a way to bend the ending. That night, my phone buzzed again. Nathaniel, one text. We need to meet, alone. And I realized something. He wasn't reaching out to fix this. He was reaching out because he was cornered. I agreed to meet, but not alone. Public cafe, daylight, cameras, witnesses. Nathaniel arrived looking polished again, like he'd put his mask back on. He sat across from me and smiled like we were old friends. "Extella," he began, "I've always respected you." I didn't respond. He continued quickly. "They're overreacting. This compliance thing is temporary. If you help me, if you tell them you misunderstood, the company will reward you." Reward. He said it like my integrity had a price tag. I kept my voice even. "He fired me at dinner." He shrugged slightly, as if it was unfortunate weather. "Business is messy." Then he leaned forward and lowered his voice. "Be smart, protect yourself. Because if you keep pushing, people will start asking why you were so close to those documents." There it was, the threat in a silk wrapper. I took a breath and looked him in the eye. "I recorded our last call," I said softly. "The one where you said, if I go down, you go down too." His face didn't change at first. Then it did. Just a flicker, like fear leaking through. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I just added, "Stop contacting me." He swallowed. Then quietly he said the last thing he could. "You think you won." I stood up calmly, leaving money on the table for my coffee. "I don't think," I said. "I know." Weeks later, the final consequences arrived the way real consequences do. Through documents, not drama. The firm announced a leadership restructure. Nathaniel's name was not in the announcement. Alden's company issued a statement about ethical procurement and vendor transparency. My lawyer negotiated my reinstatement with protections and a role change that moved me out from under anyone like Nathaniel ever again. And something else happened too. People began treating me differently. Not with pity, with respect. Because when someone tries to humiliate you publicly, they expect you to collapse privately. But I didn't. I built my case quietly. I held my emotions like a blade, controlled, sharp, useful. The night of that dinner still replayed in my mind sometimes. The clink of glasses, the sudden silence, the way the air turned. But now, when I remembered it, I didn't feel small. I felt clear. Nathaniel didn't lose because I screamed. He lost because I stayed steady. Because I didn't chase revenge. I chased truth. And truth has a way of walking into rooms where lies thought they were safe. The last time Alden and I spoke, he said, "You didn't just walk out of that dinner. You walked out of a trap." He was right. They fired me to shrink me. But all they really did was show me the door, and I walked through it like I owned my future. 10.